From notable theaters renowned for holding both awe-inspiring performances as well as restless spirits, to downright famous and classic haunted mansions where the dead roam after dark, the city of the Violet Crown sits atop mystery, history, and its fair share of the paranormal, which is why the Speakeasy is darkly delighted to bring you our list of picks for the most haunted places in the one and only city of Austin, Texas. Let's dig right in. Number 5. The Moonshine Patio Bar and Grill. The Moonshine Patio Bar and Grill is a restaurant and bar located just off of Red River Street in one of Austin's oldest historic buildings. This structure is, in fact, one of only a handful of buildings still standing that were constructed in the pre-Austin settlement of Waterloo. The building's history starts long before the bar and grill, in 1852, when one Henry F. Heffheinz decided to build a log cabin in the northwest corner of the Waterloo compound. Henry hauled freight for a living, and shortly after building his abode, set to work constructing an additional small utility building to store his trade goods. On Saturdays, Henry, along with many others around town, began making a habit of emptying out their storage buildings, preparing them, and opening them up so families, namely the ones who wanted to attend Mass the following day, could stay the night in town. The buildings used for this generous purpose were dubbed Sunday houses. The Moonshine Patio Bar and Grill now sits in the only Sunday house still standing in Austin. In 1854, Henry went on to purchase the entirety of the Waterloo compound. When the need arose for even more storage, he constructed an additional two-story building. In 1866, his original log cabin was torn down. The same year, Henry's daughter, Catherine Louise, married one Adolph Duchy Reisig. Reisig built a large room onto the main building site that would eventually be put to use as a saloon and domino parlor. Through the 1870s, the carriage house was constructed. Tragically, in 1880, Henry passed away, Adolph's family purchasing the property outright, continuing to cherish it. The saloon stayed open all the way through Prohibition, closing in the 1930s, after which a large door was cut between the former saloon and main building, and the property was used as a dry goods store. This store stayed open until 1952. Over the following years, the property was passed from owner to owner, between business ventures, until finally making its transformation into the Moonshine Patio Bar and Grill in 2003. The Moonshine Patio serves the public to this day and has managed to incorporate each piece of the prestigious old property into various parts of its restaurant and bar. Over its lengthy existence, many visiting the Moonshine have reported odd happenings that they just couldn't explain. Extreme cold spots across the property on hot days, the feeling of being watched, and even the known phenomenon of young children becoming inconsolably fussy while inside the restaurant area, a distress that doesn't dissipate until they're removed from the property. In the town's earlier days, due to the close proximity of Waller Creek and the Colorado River, this particular area was prone to flooding. It took decades to finally dam, but even still, lots of damage was done. On at least one occasion, portions of the dam broke, flooding the town, destroying buildings, and killing countless innocents. Local legend claims the spirits of the many whose lives were cut short because of flooding may still inhabit the area, and countless patrons to the Moonshine have reported sighting a wide range of full-bodied entities donning clothing from the early 1800s, some appearing drenched to the bone. At one table in particular, guests often report feeling as though someone is tapping them on the shoulder. This phenomenon has become so distracting that it's actually caused parties to leave. On several more chilling occasions, witnesses have reported the feeling of an invisible hand, possibly the same one doing the tapping, grabbing them firmly, or even the disturbing sensation of an unseen tongue literally licking the backs of their necks. Also reported across the property are strange knocking sounds, disembodied footsteps, voices heard from empty rooms, and even startling instances in which wine bottles fly from shelves across entire rooms. Lastly, and rather impressively, staff have reported finding heavy mirrors that are hung on the walls, laid neatly on the floors in the morning. Number 4. The Paramount Theater. The Paramount Theater is a live theater venue and movie theater located in downtown Austin that boasts the title of being one of only 25 theaters in the country that can claim 100 years of operation without closing its doors. This 4-story monstrosity was originally constructed by Ernest Nail in 1915. It opened for the first time as The Majestic, hosting vaudeville performances later the very same year. In 1930, the theater was purchased by Carl Hoblitzel, who renamed it as Paramount Theater. Carl renovated and modernized the building, adding carpeting, upholstered seating, and, of course, a large lighted Paramount sign to the front. In 1941, the theater was purchased by the Margaret Reed estate. In 1963, the building underwent cosmetic renovations, including the complete removal of its now reputable Paramount sign. The sign was set to be reprogrammed and returned, but, strangely, it was never seen again, and no one ever discovered its fate. By the 1970s, sadly, the theater had begun to fall out of popularity. In 1975, a nonprofit was granted ownership of the property, and after 2 years of funding, launched extensive renovations. The theater was opened again, but it wasn't until 2015, after thorough research and much debate, that plans for a new sign would be drawn up. By fall of the same year, the sign was completed and lit, notably for the first time in over 50 years, and just in time for the theater's centennial. The Paramount remains open to the public to this day, hosting both movies and live performances of all kinds. Over its many years, a number of local legends concerning the theater's possible hauntings have emerged from both staff and theatergoers alike. The spirit of an elderly man is often seen and smelled smoking old-timey cigars in the left opera box. His smell has become so strong it's prompted those near to complain to staff, who always rush to the box only to find it empty. A ghostly woman in white has been sighted all across the property, and sometimes even on the surrounding streets. During the Civil War, the War Department of the Republic of Texas was located right near where the Paramount now stands. In recent times, several have speculated that this woman in white might in fact be the widow of a soldier lost in battle, whose body was never recovered. Within the theater building, this spirit is most commonly sighted through the mezzanine toward the south wall, a worried or even distraught look upon her face. It's thought that this ghost may be replaying the moments of her life in which she burst into the War Department demanding answers on the whereabouts of her beloved. Also reported throughout the Paramount are orbs caught in photographs, strange mists seen floating about with seeming cognition, and doors opening and slamming shut on their own. On several frightening occasions, witnesses report lights either turning on by themselves or flickering off, leaving all present in total darkness, scrambling for doors or exits. Lastly, local legend and history tells of one Walter Norris. Norris passed away inside of the projection booth while playing his favorite movie. It's said Walter always brought a soda and a candy bar into the booth with him in life. Since passing, many working the booth report odd happenings, objects found in different locations mid-workday, strange noises from behind them, even breathing, as if someone unseen is up there with them, shuffling around. Many claim this is in fact the ghost of Walter Norris. To appease Norris and keep happenings to a minimum, staff actually began bringing old Walt a soda and candy at the beginning of each night. It's said that once, when this routine was accidentally broken, equipment in the theater suddenly stopped working and with no identifiable cause. The projector refused to start back up until one staff member, realizing their mistake, sprinted to concessions, returning swiftly with soda and candy in hand. Upon his return, equipment suddenly sputtered to life. Number 3. The Austin Pizza Garden. Austin Pizza Garden is a casual pizza establishment with a small bar housed in the historic James A. Patton building in the Oak Hill neighborhood, which boasts an impressively old build date. The building was originally constructed in 1879 as a general store under the name The Old Rock Store. It was owned and operated by Texas Ranger James Andrew Patton. Patton had retired from the Rangers and yearned for a simpler and quieter life with his family. In 1898, the store was rebuilt from stone. During this time, it also housed a Masonic lodge on the upper level. From the time of its construction until 1910, the store also served as a post office for the community. In 1910, when the post office closed down, James passed the store to his daughter Rosa and her husband John Dudley White. John, also a Texas Ranger, was killed in the line of duty in 1918. Rosa spent most of the rest of her life tending to the store before leaving it to Margaret, her daughter, in the 1950s. Margaret, in turn, passed the store to her nephew, James M. White, who'd had experience opening and running his own business, The Broken Spoke, a famous honky-tonk also in Austin. Together with his wife, James turned the old stop into an upscale steakhouse called The Fortress. They ended up closing the restaurant down in 1977, after which the building spent some time as an art gallery. Finally, in 1994, it was transformed into the Austin Pizza Garden. The Pizza Garden as a business was purchased by Ken Hatton and Kelly Peterson in 2016, who promptly took over the lease. James M. White still owns the prestigious old building to this day and has no plans of selling anytime soon. The Austin Pizza Garden remains faithful to its patrons, serving delicious pies from its historic premises to this day. As local legend has it, however, great pizza isn't the only thing the garden offers, and a number of reports of paranormal activity have arisen from both staff and customers over time. A number of investigations, both formal and informal, have been held at the Austin Pizza Garden, and a large majority come to the informed speculation that the garden may in fact house the spirit of John Dudley White. As the story goes, his restless spirit returned to the old building after he was killed in action, searching and longing to be with his family. White's full-bodied apparition has been sighted numerous times across the property, a thoughtful and melancholy look upon his face, and has been known to vanish into thin air seconds after being spotted. Another ghostly figure in all white has been sighted at the top of the staircase. This apparition has also been known to disappear seconds after spotting. Based on this behavior, several speculate that this too may be White, while others claim it's a different entity entirely. Reported all throughout Austin Pizza Garden are lights turning on and off by themselves, electronics brought onto the property dying nearly instantly, and the feeling of someone unseen walking directly behind one's person. Paranormal happenings here have been so intense at times that even some of the world's toughest skeptics admit that it's hard to stay in the building, many describing being overcome by a strange sensation of lingering fear. Many also report disembodied footsteps from empty portions of the building, high EMF levels, strange EVPs caught in recordings and in the backgrounds of phone calls, and extreme cold spots. Lastly, upon entering the restaurant, many psychics and those more sensitive report instantly feeling a strong energy emanating from the building. And on more than one occasion, even those without the gift report hearing or feeling a strange buzzing sensation in the air around them. Number 2, the Texas Governor's Mansion. The Texas Governor's Mansion is a historic home purposed for the governor of Texas that's located smack dab in the middle of downtown Austin, and that boasts the reputation of being the 4th oldest continuously inhabited governor's residence in the country, as well as the oldest governor's mansion west of the Mississippi. Plans for its construction were launched in 1854, with the home having been continuously inhabited by the Texas governor since 1856. Originally a whopping 6,000 square feet, the home was actually remodeled in 1914 and expanded to 8,920 square feet, with the addition of 25 rooms and 7 bathrooms. In 1931, the Board of Mansion Supervisors was established in an effort to oversee and ensure all decorating and remodeling of the home fell in line with stricter regulations. The board was abolished, however, in 1965. In October 2007, a major renovation project was launched at the mansion, forcing Governor Rick Perry and wife Anita to relocate for a time. In June of 2008, midway through renovations, the property was badly damaged in an arson fire started by a Molotov cocktail. No one has ever been charged for the crime. Thankfully, all of the mansion's valuable historic possessions had been removed prior to the fire, and restoration efforts were put in effect immediately. Eventually, the mansion was fully restored, and improvements that were initially planned were finally added. Work was completed by July of 2012. Current Governor Greg Abbott, his wife Cecilia, and their daughter Audrey are the 40th family to reside in the notable abode, with Abbott holding the title of 41st governor to live there full-time. The Texas Governor's Mansion is open often to the public for events, tours, and the like. Over its long existence, a number of chilling ghost stories have emerged from across the property. Many on the premises report sighting doors opening and even slamming shut on their own, light switches flicking from on to off or vice versa, and the almost constant feeling of never being truly alone, even in seemingly empty rooms. One popular local legend tells of the spirit of a young man, maybe 19, sighted all across the property, donning clothing from the mid-1800s. It's said that sometime through the 1860s, this gentleman fell in love with then-Governor Pendleton Murrah's niece. He proposed to her, but sadly, she refused. Broken-hearted, he took his own life by way of self-inflicted gunshot wound. Within days of his untimely demise, those at or near the mansion began reporting the disembodied sounds of crying, sobbing, even screaming, usually followed by a sudden and deafening bang, and then silence. These phenomena were most often experienced near the old guest quarters, where the young romantic stayed up until his passing. It's said that a number of maids and staff members over the years and into modern times refuse to enter the room entirely. Those that have report it's always cold, abnormally so. One story tells that, for a time, the room was sealed up. Despite this fact, moaning, gasping breaths, and sickening wet slopping sounds could be heard through the solid wall. Eventually, it was opened back up and converted into what's now a bathroom and closet space. Those who frequent this particular bathroom report feeling as if someone unseen is standing next to them, watching them, and several have even described disturbing encounters in which they feel whatever it is breathing on their neck. The spirit of former Governor Sam Houston himself, who died in 1863 in Huntsville, has been sighted in the room that acted as his bedroom during his stay as governor. This isn't really too surprising from a paranormal standpoint, as this room also still holds his old bed. Sam's been known to disappear when approached by the living, and many report sighting his shadow lurking in the corners when night falls. The spirit of former Governor Pendleton Murrah, who passed in 1865 in Monterrey, Mexico, has also been sighted roaming the grounds. Many report sighting him just as he's walking through doorways or rounding corners, after which, as those who have attempted to follow him have learned, he promptly disappears. Also reported throughout the mansion are objects moving on their own, animals reacting to unseen presences, and strange scratching noises seemingly emanating from within the walls. A ghostly maid is often sighted, attending what must have been daily work tasks from life. Legend tells that she was fired from her job in the mansion's early days for being pregnant and unmarried. As the story goes, no one is certain what became of the young girl after she left, but it's speculated it couldn't have been any good. Her spirit has also been sighted on the front step, sporting a growing stomach and pleading to be let inside. Lastly, the spectral figure of a young man has been known to materialize suddenly and surprisingly, face pressed against various mansion windows from the outside, screaming in agony briefly before vanishing, sometimes with a loud pop. His blood-curdling scream has prompted those near to contact authorities on a number of occasions, who always arrive to find the area completely clear and unnaturally cold. Number 1. Oakwood Cemetery. Oakwood Cemetery is a 40-acre historic cemetery located just north of the Swedish Hill Historic District that boasts the title of being the oldest city-owned cemetery in all of Austin. It holds the bodies of a number of famous historic figures, including Alamo survivor Susanna Dickinson, multiple former Texas governors, and many more. The first burial to have taken place on the grounds is said to have occurred in 1839, with the cemetery's oldest gravestone dating back to just after that, circa 1842. According to several legends, some of the first burials were actually victims of an attack by native tribes on pioneer settlers, but this has never been confirmed. The boneyard was made official through the mid-1850s after establishing itself as a city cemetery. It was split into several sections according to race, economic standing, and religion. In 1907, City was renamed to its current Oakwood Cemetery. In 1914, Oakwood Cemetery Mortuary Chapel was constructed in order to hold larger and more official memorial services. That same year, the Oakwood Cemetery Annex was opened on the opposite end of Comel Street as an expansion to the grounds. The chapel underwent a large-scale renovation and remodel in 1944. In 1972, the property was designated as an official Texas Historic Landmark and was added to the National Register of Historic Places later in 1985. Today, the cemetery has pretty much filled its expanse. Burials are few and sometimes far between. Most modern burials take place in the Oakwood Cemetery Annex, which now holds more than 23,000 bodies, some in unmarked graves. The cemetery is open to the public during the day for visitation, viewing, and general exploration. Daytime limitations shouldn't slow paranormal investigations down, however, as most claim the cemetery's many hauntings are active pretty evenly at all times, day and night. Some stories tell that a number of unmarked graves were uncovered by accident, then reburied hastily, unceremoniously, disturbing once peaceful spirits. Solidifying these stories are apparitions of varying age, era, and description sighted all across the grounds, wandering aimlessly, confused looks upon their faces, some say as they search for their rightful graves. The spirit of one Eula Phillips, a 17-year-old girl that was killed with an axe on Christmas Eve of 1885, has been sighted often throughout the cemetery, looking shocked, lost, as if she doesn't realize she's dead. Several have tried to approach her and have been met with disappointment when she seemingly evaporates into nothingness. The ghost of General Thomas Greene, a Confederate cavalry soldier killed in the Civil War's Red River campaign, has been sighted often wandering among the headstones. He is often accommodated by the phantom sound of horse hooves, musket fire, and the smell of gunpowder. Also reported across the graveyard's expanse are extreme cold spots on hot days, orbs both caught in photographs and visibly sighted near graves, and a general feeling of unease as if something at Oakwood just isn't right. The spirits of several small children have been seen and heard playing near the area housing younger bodies. Several adults have tried to catch them in attempts to locate their parents, but they're always seemingly just a little bit faster, disappearing around corners or through foliage right before capture. A dark, shadowy thing has been sighted throughout Oakwood, namely when the cemetery's close time policy was a bit more lax. Those who've encountered whatever this shadowy thing is describe being instantly overcome by an ominous feeling moments before their run-in, with several telling of terrifying chases in which they feel they've escaped with their lives by only inches. The spirit of an old man has been sighted wandering the rows of headstones during the day, appearing lost or confused. Those who have approached him describe being met with a relieved smile for only a second before he dissolves into thin air. Much like our last listed haunt, the ghost of former Governor Samuel Houston has been known to make occasional appearances at Oakwood. He's always seen just near his own gravestone, staring at it contemplatively. Also reported across the grounds are apparitions in old-fashioned clothing, strange mists that hover over specific graves, and even the feeling of being grabbed or hit by something unseen. Many report the feeling of being closely followed and watched threateningly. day, and several have reported the chilling sensation of multiple sets of tiny hands grasping at their legs and ankles from the dark. Lastly, in the section of the annex where infants were buried, many report cell phones going dead instantly, strange winds picking up from nowhere, and objects set around graves moving spatially on their own, as if someone small and unseen is playing with them. Many visiting this portion also report being overcome by an extreme, almost overpowering feeling of sadness, depression, hopelessness, and in a handful of accounts that can only be described as positively terrifying, witnesses report actually hearing the disembodied cries of hundreds of children surrounding them, sometimes even spying their dark forms step from the shadow, only briefly before fading away into the night. Taking into account this old boneyard's absolutely fascinating history, coupled with its massive range of hauntings and reports of actual physical contact with the other side, Oakwood Cemetery was a dead ringer as our pick for the most haunted place in Austin. Thanks for tuning in to our list of picks for the most haunted places in the one and only city of Austin, Texas. If you enjoyed listening to our history and ghost stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and make sure you turn notifications on so you know when fresh content is coming out. Throw us a like if you feel we deserve it, and most importantly, share this video and our channel with anyone you think could use a little scare. We'll see you all next time.